We were in the White House in 1962, and the reporters are working to prevent the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest the world has ever come to nuclear annihilation. Was there a resolution? The US had a solution that was unwanted. So, should they agree or disagree? Despite the great implications of nuclear war negotiations, these same scenarios appear everywhere in life. I researched this topic to find solutions to my social struggles in life. I have many traits working against being diplomatic: impatience, stubbornness, temperamentality, and those are my best traits. Therefore, studying the art of diplomacy is a way to fix our problems and become better humans. On one hand, we have relations between countries. Diplomats in fancy suits negotiate in a musty room at geopolitics surrounded by hectic staff. But there is also more intimate diplomacy, negotiating weekend plans or attempting to get hundreds on late assignments. International diplomacy and local diplomacy implement the same basic traits. Diplomacy, the skill of dealing with people sensibly and effectively, will not only change your life when applied right, history has already been changed because of it. But first, before we begin the fun, we cannot go after the sun. We need a ground rule. Thankfully, it is easy. An ancient Chinese philosopher, Zhuangzi, declared that there is a wise rule of thumb for international relations: always to speak the truth and never to embellish it. In this way, you will avoid much harm to yourselves. The words of the Chinese philosopher demonstrate a simple foundation of diplomacy: honesty. When we are constantly honest to others, the bonds can be formed. Then we will be able to negotiate complicated issues for a common goal. I do this with my rowing coach all the time. I constantly inform him when I will be absent or late for events. Consequently, I have a high standing on my team and a leadership position because I have gained trust from authority figures. Nowhere was this honesty more needed than in Northern Ireland. For decades, the area was in absolute chaos due to the Troubles. A conflict between Catholics and Protestants resulted in nearly 3,500 deaths. Peace was needed badly, but finding commonalities between enemies is difficult. Enter U.S. Special Envoy George Mitchell. His ability to get answers out of everyone he talked to helped him to create the Good Friday Agreement, which ended the Troubles and brought peace to an area known for strife. Now, we need to take a hard jump for the next skill in diplomacy. Military historian John Keegan commented that it is a necessary quality of a diplomat or politician that he will compromise. Diplomacy is, at its most pure, the art of getting your minimum goals. Of course, humans want everything. Curbing that instinct is the most important challenge in negotiating. Once this skill is achieved, it is easier than breathing. The New York Post reported that the average person makes 92 compromises a month. For example, if you take a look at the northern US border, you will notice that it is a long, perfect line. This is due to international diplomacy. In the 1840s, the US and the UK needed to resolve a dispute over the Oregon Territory. The British and Americans each had their own ideas for a border that they would not budge on. Deadlock ensued. US President James K. Polk resolved the situation. He first claimed the whole Oregon Territory before backtracking to the original American proposal. The British at that point changed their mind and took the American offer. In exchange for letting a British company operate in the Columbia River and stopping the border at the nearest strait, the British agreed to a border on the line of the 49th parallel. Through clever compromise, the US got what they wanted. Now, I would like to return to the Cuban Missile Crisis before the world ends. The US ultimately agreed to the deal offered by the Soviets, where they had to remove their missiles from Turkey and never invade Cuba. Diplomacy has helped avert nuclear war. Diplomacy has brought peace to a war-torn island. Diplomacy has fixed land disputes. That art of being able to deal with people sensibly and effectively is what will move us forward in our lives. Lacking diplomacy in your actions is squaring the circle. Progress is impossible. Raise your hand if you prefer to solve problems through careful diplomacy and sensitive conversation. A lot of people, good. If that is your belief, then I ask, why not put it into practice now? Would you rather prefer to have all your problems fixed by a better character and peaceful interaction? Or would you instead want to have your anger cause multiple unsolved problems? Honest, adaptable individuals will make the world a better place. Be diplomatic, change the world. Thank you.